Hi everyone, so I'm back. I've had the hair transplant. It was a success in the end, albeit a few complications. And I'm going to outline the whole procedure in much more detail on another video, probably the next video. I just thought it would be worth making a bit of an account while it's fresh in my head. So I got back last night about 7 o'clock. The operation took about 5 hours. The team at Dr. T Hair Transplant were absolutely fantastic, really good. Everything happens so quickly though, so you get rushed through. Well, I wouldn't say rushed, but they're just very efficient. You get taken through, you get your hairline drawn on. I showed Dr. Tafen the photos. He said it was really good that I'd been taking medication since I started balding. He even mentioned he'd taken it himself for over 9 years, finasteride that is, which is nice to hear that he actually takes the medication as well. He drew the hairline on, and initially this hairline, it still looks quite high, but the reason for that is because my head's swollen from the surgery, from the trauma. So because my head's swollen, it's kind of moved things up a little bit, but when he drew the hairline on at the initial consultation, he actually drew it on a lot lower than I thought, and I said, no, I actually wanted it a little bit higher. I'm not concerned about having a super low hairline. I just want my initial hairline reinforced, basically. He did bring down the frontal region, so this frontal region here, he brought it down about 3 centimetres or so. You can actually see he left the one tuft that I had at the front, he left that, and he's thickened it up a little bit, but he's left that because there was still quite a lot of native density. So he's gone in front of that. It looks a tiny little bit lopsided, but that's not something I'm worrying about at all. You do not want a perfect hairline. You don't want it drawn like a line. It has to have some natural irregularities. And he's feathered it along the front as well. So there are some extras put in front. So I'm not worried about that at all. I think it looks fantastic. He's closed off the corners as well, which is what I wanted, and it's still got that M shape slightly, ever so slightly, so it's exactly what I wanted. I can't fault that at all. I didn't have any put in the crown region. He mainly covered the temple region and also the bit behind where I was losing hair and thinning as well. He said if I wanted to go for the crown region, it would probably be best for me to wait for it to thin out a little bit more and then potentially go at a later date. But I'm not really too bothered about my crown. It is a little bit thin, but you can't really see it. You can't really see it unless you go looking for it. So that's not something I'm bothered about. I've got quite a lot of thick hair at the back, so I can cover that up for a long time, and then maybe in the future I could get that done, but not something I'll be looking into for the foreseeable future. The procedure itself, now I've got to say it was very uncomfortable. Okay, I'm going to be totally honest. It's nothing to do with the team at Get Hair and the team at Dr. T Hair Transplant. They were fantastic. It was just not a very comfortable procedure. I've got to be honest about that. And I will talk about the procedure a lot more because, as I say, there was a slight complication with mine, which probably made it a little bit more unnerving. My heart rate was basically quite high because I was very anxious. I wasn't panicking or anything. I was sat quite calmly, but I could not bring my heart rate down. I think it's because, and Dr. Tafer mentioned this as well, because I've been anticipating the surgery for such a long time, I was just so anxious, and I couldn't bring my heart rate down. It was slightly irregular. They had to get a cardiologist to come in to listen to my heart. So it was a little bit unnerving at one point. The translator actually translated, "Don't worry, he's a cardiologist. He will control your heart now." What she meant to say was, he will monitor your heart now. So they strapped me up to a bit of a, it must have been a device that allows you to measure the heart rhythm. So they had to take my top off and strap me here, and also clamps on my wrists and my ankles. And obviously when she said, "He will control your heart now," that did unnerve me a little bit. I was thinking I was going to get an electric shock go through my heart to try and control my heart rhythm. but he was just measuring what my heart was doing, and it seemed like he basically said it was just the anxiety, nothing to worry about. So they gave me a few different bits of medication, and it helped. The problem was as well that local anaesthetic, you can only have so much of it. Now, for me personally, I think my pain threshold's fine. Like the injection into my arm, no problem whatsoever. But I did have a problem with the local anaesthetic. So I was feeling about 10 to 20% of the incisions. No, let's say 10%. So it was like 9 out of 10 couldn't feel a thing. But every 1 out of 10, I could actually feel the incision, and it was painful. It felt like a needle going into my skin. So that was unnerving. So I couldn't calm down because I was thinking constantly, is the next one going to be one that's been numbed up properly, or is it going to be one that hits a nerve? I personally think that the local anaesthetic, it numbs the whole area, but there are nerves in your head that they need to give a lot more to numb it. For example, this bit here, I could feel that the whole time, even though they kept numbing the area. I could feel it, it must have been hitting a nerve, and it wasn't very nice. It was uncomfortable. Also, the positions you have to lie in, that's quite uncomfortable as well. You have to hold a position on your face, lying on this part of your face for 2 hours. That's quite uncomfortable because your head starts to go numb. And also when they put fluids into you, because they do inject fluids, you need the toilet. You need the toilet quickly. And I've got quite a small bladder. I'm quite a small person. I'm only 5'6", 5'7". So when they were injecting the fluids, it went straight through me and I needed the toilet, but I was conscious not to go because the longer the procedure takes, the more difficult it is. And you want to get those grafts into your head as soon as you can. So I was conscious about that. I did have a couple of toilet breaks. It was just an unpleasant experience, I've got to say, and I couldn't listen to music. They put some music on the TV, but most of it was Turkish until they started playing a little bit of Adele. But that wasn't that comfortable, I've got to say. It's not a procedure that I'd want to do again anytime soon, but it's how much you want hair. Would I go through it again? Yeah, because I really wanted my hairline back. I really wanted hair. That's something that for me, I want to do, definitely. So I would do it again. But if you're someone who has a fine hairline and you're, just wanting to lower it so you've got a completely straight hairline and you're not that committed to it, I wouldn't advise it. It's an uncomfortable experience. For me personally, I can only speak for myself. I know a lot of people have had, they've fallen asleep in the procedure. There's no way I would have fallen asleep in that procedure. But I was quite anxious about it. So that might have played a part. In terms of pain, sleeping at night, no, that's not bad at all. It doesn't hurt. Bandaged up fine, that's no problem. I did bleed a little bit on the pillow, so I'll have to ask at reception whether that'll be an extra charge. I'd rather pay it in cash now than get a charge later on my card, because that'll incur extra fees. I actually think I quite suit the shaven look. It looks okay, but it looks okay as well because I've got the hairline now. So we're going for a wash at about 9:15 in local time, Istanbul, so not too long. I'm going to take some of the pills that they've given me now, and we can talk through that another time. And then I'm going to go and get some breakfast. But that's me just checking in. I'll give you a quick close-up of the actual transplant. It's not going to be great quality because I'm using the front-facing camera of the iPhone, but hopefully it gives you a bit of an idea. As I say, this hairline, I didn't want it any more lowered. That is perfect for me. You have to be, when you're a very young age, you have to be conservative with how high or low you have your hairline. If I brought that down another few centimetres, that's another few hundred grafts maybe. and you need to play it safe. So Dr. Tafan said I had 3,100 grafts removed and inserted. So that's a considerable amount of grafts. That's going to cover that front region really nicely. He said the grafts were of good density as well and lots of multiples. So hopefully we get some good results in about a year's time. I'll keep you updated along the way. But I wouldn't want that lowered anymore, because if I do need to come back in the future to have the crown done perhaps, or let's say this frontal region needs a little bit more and the crown, then so be it. That's what I'll do. I do have a bit of a long-term plan, so I wanted the frontal region done and then have enough grafts for the back region if the back region does start to go eventually. Not for really dense, thick coverage, but just so I've got coverage all over my head. I don't mind having slightly thin hair as long as I've got coverage over my head. My hair was thin anyway. And then perhaps in the future I'll look at something like trichotherapy, where they micropigment your scalp so there's less of a contrast between your hair and the scalp. It's all about creating the illusion of density and fullness in the hair, as opposed to trying to get absolute density, because you're never going to get it. If you're going to lose all your hair, you're not going to cover it with the donor region that you've got. And unfortunately I wouldn't be able to use my beard either because it's ginger. So having ginger beard hair implanted into my head probably wouldn't be a good look. So that's everything for now. I will check in with you a little bit later on and I'll talk about the procedure in detail. I've made some notes so I can recall that as accurately as I can. Any questions, drop them in the comments below. Anything you'd like to know about, drop them in the comments below. Every few videos I'll do a bit of a Q&A if there are enough comments. If not, then I'll just mention them in the later videos. Okay.